You've got a kick-ass band. You spent a lot of time working on some original material, and you figure it's time to hit the studio and lay down some killer tracks. If you've never recorded before, you're in for a rude awakening. It's time to put down the bong and pay attention. Because what I'm about to tell you can wind up saving you thousands of dollars in the studio. This is how to get your band ready to record. Time is your enemy. Every minute you spend fucking around not recording something costs you money. What I'm going to show you are 8, and for all you drummers out there, that's this many, 8 simple rules for getting your band ready to record in the studio. Rule number 1, learn your fucking material. It's pretty fucking obvious, isn't it? It's also the number 1 thing you dumb motherfuckers overlook. It doesn't mean the guitar player knows the song. It doesn't mean the drummer knows the song. It means everybody knows the song. Everybody in the band should know exactly what the fuck to play before they even walk in the studio. Guitar players, write your solos before you come in the studio. Look, I'm not Harry fucking Potter. I don't have a magic wand to turn on your fucking talent. Rarely do your legendary improvisational skills ever manifest themselves in the studio. Singers, learn your parts. Fucking actually practice them before you come into the studio. I don't know how many times I've seen a great recording session go down in flames because the singer was overconfident, thought he knew what he was doing, got up in front of the mic and choked. Stop whatever bullshit you're doing right now and go practice. And while you're at it, go write your vocal harmonies, because nothing eats up studio time and lines my pockets more than watching a singer try and write his vocal harmonies in the studio. Bass players, see rule number 2. Rule number 2, your bass player is a useless cunt. Notable exceptions being Steve Harris, Les Claypool, the late great Cliff Burton, Dave the bassist, and Calvin Love. Seriously, these guys will go out of their way to fuck up your record. Now, let me rephrase that, because that would actually require some effort on the part of the useless cunt. What I meant to say was these guys will go out of their way to avoid being noticed. In the last 15 years, I have seen more sessions go down the shitter because of these asshats than for any other reason. It's because 99% of bass players out there aren't actually musicians. If they were musicians, they'd play guitar. Instead, these are the guys who want to be in a band without actually putting forth any effort. They've got a shitty bass and an even shittier amplifier and are rarely heard at band practice above the guitar player. Only when the group rolls into the studio does the glaring deficiency of the moron on the 4-string become apparent. And it's costing all of you money! These clowns have no timing, no technique, and not enough self-respect to actually bother to learn the material. I just love tracking bass lines and 5-second punch-ins. That's just such a fun way to spend a day in the studio. Bass players, do yourself a favor. Learn a little technique called muting. That is when you are playing on the higher registers. Throw a thumb around the neck and mute the top strings. Don't fret them. Just touch them so they're not moving. That way they're not flapping in the breeze, out of key, and sounding like shit like the rest of your performance. Rule number 3. Guitar players, learn the bass lines. Why? Why? Because your bass player, no matter how much you begged him to, did not listen to rule number 1! Ah! No other musician makes me want to eat a bullet as much as a fucking bass player. Rule number 4, leave your girlfriend at home. Where do I start with this one? If you want to break up your band, bring your girlfriend to the studio. It worked for the Beatles, it can work for you too. Unless your girlfriend is actually a performing member of the band, or is willing to give everyone in the studio a lap dance, me first please, leave your girlfriend at home. Look, I think women are awesome. Just watch the Falling with Glory video. But a girlfriend in the studio is going to be a distraction to you. It's going to drive a wedge between you and the rest of your band members. And girlfriends get pissed off when nobody's paying attention to them. I didn't put enough seating in my studio for one reason. This is where the girlfriend sits. And after they spend a day in the studio sitting on the floor, they never come back. Rule number 5. Prepare your instruments for the studio. Look, if your guitar sounds like this, why bring it into the fucking studio? What the fuck are you thinking? That it would somehow magically fix itself in the middle of the session? That it wouldn't short out at the most inopportune time, ruining your once-in-a-lifetime take? Come on! What the fuck? Take your instrument to a professional and have it set up properly before you come into the studio. Tell your tech what you're tuning to. That way he can sense your intonation correctly as well. Guitar players, put some new strings on your guitar a day or two before you come into the studio. And bass players, I know this is gonna hurt, and I know that's gonna cut into your pot and tattoo budget, but buy some new fucking strings. Don't put them on yet. We'll put them on just before you go to play. Your performance we know is gonna suck anyway, but at least the bass will sound good. Rule number 6, practice to a metronome. If you want to make a pro-level record, it is time to step up and play like a professional. That means everyone plays to a metronome. Nothing says amateur hour like a fucking shitty meter. Drummers will hate this part because they're going to have to play constantly for once in their life, and we all know what a bunch of whiny bitches drummers are. Now, the common complaint here is, but our songs have changing tempos, to which my reply would be, it's not fucking rocket science! It's quite simple. Grab a copy of Reaper online, it's shareware. Download it, install it, and write out your tempo map. Dump it onto a laptop, plug it into your PA, and then the whole band can rehearse to a metronome. Rule number 7, practice through an amplifier. If you're playing an electric stringed instrument and you're not plugged in at home, how the fuck do you expect to get a tone? You're not going to develop the technique necessary to get a good tone in the studio. You would think this one would be glaringly obvious, but it has happened. Great musicians have come in and not practiced into an amp. They sit at home, unplugged, jangling away, and then they come into the studio and wonder why they get such a shitty tone. By Thor's fucking hammer! Play through a fucking amplifier when you're at home, people! Rule number 8, Guitar Pro. This one could be the biggest money saver of all. If you tab everything out in Guitar Pro, there's not going to be any surprises when you come into the studio. Everyone will know exactly what they have to play. The drummer can come in and track his drums to the Guitar Pro files. I have seen bands save a metric fuck ton of cash by writing all their stuff out in Guitar Pro and bringing it into the studio. I can't say enough good things about it. In case I was a little subtle for some of you guys, this was a humorous look at some very common problems found in recording studios. If you were offended by what I said, you might want to practice a little bit more. Buckle down, master your craft, and let's make some great music together.